Good afternoon, Martin from Bespoke Baits here, and today we're going to be looking at making a food pop-up to go along with all the other boilies that we've been making in this series. Hopefully you've watched them, boilie making 1, 2, 3 and 4, where we've started off dead basic, right up to making a kilo and even a wafter. Also something else which might be worth watching is the number 4 shot test video. Dead basic little test to see how buoyant your pop-ups, because that's how we're going to use that's what we're going to use in this video to see how buoyant our pop-ups end up being, even though they contain some base mix. So here's a way. Okay, so I'm just going to run through the equipment. So first of all, the ingredients. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to make a 1 egg mix. I have some pop-up material which I've mixed with some fluoro yellow pop-up, because they use all yellow boilies. So just to help it out, what I've done is I've mixed 3 of white pop-up and 1 of yellow. Obviously not necessary. You could use some yellow dye, that would have done the same job. So I want to put about 25% base mix into this mix, so I have some base mix. Obviously I've got some carpy liquids, I've got some carpy extras to go in. Now equipment wise, obviously a big bowl to mix everything in, set of kitchen scales so that we can weigh stuff and make sure that we can repeat this. I've got my gardener table, which was the last video that we made, which we've modified and made nice and flat, so should make us some lovely perfect boilies. Obviously I've got my gun, and I think that's about it. Obviously I'm going to have some hot water going to boil and cook, and we'll go through that quite closely and try and banish some of the myths regarding boiling pop-up material. So let's get started. Let's mix, we'll try that again. Let's mix some liquids up. Okay, so nice large mixing bowl. Zero your scales before you start, because we want to weigh our liquids. So 1 egg, and that weighs 56ml. It's a large egg. So generally large eggs, I would say, are just above 50ml, and your medium eggs are below that. So what I've got to do now, I've got some carpy liquids to go in. Now just on that, recommended for this mix would be 3ml. Now because this is a pop-up and because it's a hook bait and it's not going to be eaten, it's not going to be taken right in and tasted, I want the added attraction. So what I've done is I've doubled that, so there's actually 6ml of carpy liquids gone in. Okay, so total liquids, we've got 69 grams. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 69 divided by 80%. Okay, and that equals 0.86. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to times that by 20%, and that gives me 17.25ml. Now the reason I've done this is because I'm going to introduce you to a new product, and you might see it abbreviated on the boilie pages and recipes, MPG, which is monopropylene glycol, which in other words is bait preserve. So if you want to buy bait preserve which has the carb tax on, you're going to pay about 46 quid for 5 litres. If you want to buy monopropylene glycol, which is an odourless, tasteless preserve, then have a look around for that. You generally can find it on eBay, and it'll be 10-15 quid cheaper than what the bait suppliers use it for. So we'll run you through that again. So this is 80% of my liquid, because I want to put 20% of the bait preserve in. So I have 69, I'll just give that a little wiggle so it doesn't turn off. 69 divided by 80% gives me 1%. I times that by 20, and that gives me 17.25. So I'm now looking for 15. So this is glycol here. It is just a clear odourless liquid. I've never tasted it. So there's 15. So I will add 2.5 now. 2.5. Now all this allows me to do is to leave some moisture in the bait. So if you didn't want to use this preserve, that's fine. Dry your prop-ups right out. So just leave them for a week, 2 weeks till they've dried right out. But if they get wet, they could have mould growing on them. Okay, so with this, obviously you can leave a little bit of moisture in, so when they go out the water they're pumping out a lot quicker, and I think it's well worth doing. So I've got my pen now, because we now have a total of 87 ml of liquid. Very important to write everything down, because you can repeat it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at making our dry mix. Okay, so those of you who have watched the wafter video will remember that we started off 50% base mix and 50% pop-up. Now we want to make a pure pop-up this time, so obviously we can't do that, but I still want to get as much food signals from my base mix into my pop-up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with 1 measure of base mix, and then I'm going to add 3 measures of pop-up. And I'm just going to give that a little stir. Okay, so that's our dry ingredients done. So back on to our egg bowl. Now what I want to do is I want to zero the scales, and again, like when we did our wafter, we could easily put 2 scoops in, and then we'll see where we go from there. Yep, easy. So we've got 2, so that's 500. Write that down. 500 ml of pop-up mix. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the big scoop, and I'm going to use 30. Let's throw on some more. So we did put another 30 in. Write that down. 15 in total there. So that's not a bad guess. Okay, so still quite wet, so I'm just going to resort to just white pop up now, so that'll be another 30 in total. Sort of break it up so that you get wet parts around the powder. good. Done. So what I've done is I've got my gun, so I'm going to pop that in, give that a squirt to push up the paste to the top. Now, nozzle size, you would have seen our video hopefully on explaining nozzles and mathematically how to work it out. Obviously it never pans out like that. So this is my 16mm table nozzle for pop-up, and it's actually 11.7 for a 16mm pop-up. So we'll see how that performs. Now I do want to introduce a new tool, and this tool is a little set of rollers, and you can get these from RS. I'll put the link below. When you pump out by hand, if you can imagine using a boilie gun like this, you can pull or you can be pushing. So as you pull, you're actually making the sausage smaller. When you're standing still, you're making the sausage bigger. So it's handy just to have a set of rollers, and I'll show you how these work. Because all you have to do is just fire your boilie paste down the rollers, and then there's no resistance, no pulling, no pushing. So I'm just going to stop that there. So obviously I know that if I make two less, so here are 5 tables, so what I'm going to do is just tip that on. So I want to test this pop-up. So I've got my water ready. So all I'm going to do, and there we have one nice one. So what I want to do with this now is I want to put it on the shot test and see how it behaves. Okay, so I want this to lift 3 shot. Obviously this is the wettest it would ever be, because we haven't even cooked it yet. Right, so I've just got that on the shot test. Obviously it's just a little bit misshaped. I'll drop that in, and lo and behold, yeah, as you may be able to see, it's quite clearly just lifting 3rd one off. So that is perfect. So I know that's going to hold a nice big size 4 hook and a bit of swivel if we're using something like a chod rig or happy days. Okay, so just off camera there, what I've done is I've had a little test run. Typical gardener table, we're sort of getting nice perfect ones at one end, and then we're getting a little bit of a barrel effect at the other end. It is what it is. I have upped the nozzle a little bit, so I've now got a 11.9, maybe 12mm nozzle, so to produce a 16mm pop-up. So it just shows you how much it grows. Okay, just so you can watch it go down the rollers without any resistance, without any pulling, without any pushing. Just get it more or less to the length. Take the pressure off the gun so it doesn't squirt it out while we're not doing anything. Now I always sacrifice the 2 end ones because they never come out perfect anyway, very rarely anyway. So I mean, they're not too bad if you wanted some barrels, but And then all I've got is a little tray, so I'm just going to pull that to the edge. Wallpaper, paste and brush. I'm just going to flick them in there. And in the catalytic tray there is a little bit of pop-up mix just to stop them from sticking. Okay, so that's all the rolling done now. So I've got a nice little batch of round pop-ups there. So I'd say 75% of them are nice and round. That side of the table, for whatever reason, just wants a bit more material. So they're making sort of slightly more barrel-shaped pop-ups. I'm not too bothered about that. They're all going to catch fish. So now time to boil. So let's get the hot water on. Okay, time to boil. A view you don't normally see, but it's my second largest pan, which is a really big sort of soup pan, and it's on the boil. Unfortunately I've managed to drop the lid, and I need to take this padding off to get to it, so it's got no lid. So a 1 egg mix for me wants no more than a minute. And obviously the bigger the pan, the more energy and more heat you can hold. Now if you think about it, an egg congeals at 73 degrees centigrade. So in other words, if you put cracked an egg into a frying pan, when that changes white, that is when the egg is congealing, and that is at 73 degrees. So I sometimes see people, you know, they're boiling the pop-ups for 2 minutes and they come out and they're expanded and all the rest of it. For me, that's just, you're actually boiling all the flavour and all the bits and pieces that you put into them. So maximum a minute. I have timers up here, so I've got a 2 minute, 1 minute and a 1.5 minute. So depending on what I'm boiling, I can just hit that, and then I know. So obviously I've got no lid for this. And obviously what I'll do is, once they've been in there for a few seconds, I will sort of help them under the water a little bit, just to get them you know, rotating around the water, and then I'll be bringing them out as quickly as I can, obviously into one of the mushroom trays, so they're drying and cooling straight away. So 1 minute timer on. Mushroom tray out there ready. And that's them done. So they haven't really grown in size, but as you can see, they're steaming like mad. You can't tell me that that egg hasn't congealed in there. And that's only a minute, and I think sometimes you probably get away with 30 seconds, to be fair. I know I've got a bigger pan than that, and when I'm using that, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, all done. And there's no way they haven't cooked all the way through. Okay, so that's them done and cool. Now what I've done is I've actually cut one in half, and it is perfectly cooked through. Obviously that's in a wet state, but there's definitely sort of no soft bit in the middle, uncooked or anything like that. So that was a 1 egg mix for 1 minute. Like I say, I think you'd probably get away with 30 to 45 seconds. No point cooking the flavour out of them. They come out and they're all expanded, and obviously by the time they cook, you know, you've washed all the flavour out of them. So what I am going to do now, I'm going to put one on the shot test and we'll have a little look and see how they've come out. Okay, so I've got one on the shot test, so I'm just going to pop that into the glass, see how we're getting on. And yeah, clearly lifting 2 up. Hanging on the 3rd one, and imagine that pop-up is as wet as it's going to be. So that is, you know, something that's likely to have been out 12 hours in the water, and it's still nice and buoyant, holding up 2 short. And if I wiggle it around, you can see that 3rd one's just hovering. So nice little food pop-up with lots of buoyancy. Obviously by the time I dry them out, it'll probably lift all 3 off the bottom, but obviously you know fine well that in the morning they're still going to be performing, and they're more than capable of hanging a size 4 hook plus a bit of swivel. Happy days. Okay, so really happy with them. Food pop up, some base mix in it, so it's still going to give off those foodie signals. Double strength as well, so plenty of attraction there. They're never going to be eaten, so I'm not too worried that the fact that, you know, obviously in a food pop-up, in a food boilie that you're putting out, the last thing you want to do is double the flavour and double, because obviously they eat it and they go, you know, too strong. But obviously with a hook bait, a different story. Obviously you want to, you know, if it's hidden in some weed, you want it leaking out and that. So happy days. So I think we're now complete for the competition. So what I'm going to do with these, because they smell nice, I am going to take them in the house, even though I have a drying cupboard in here. And I'm just going to let them dry at room temperature, probably take about 3 days. And then we're going to look to get sorted and having our little competition on our Facebook page. And we're going to give away all these yellow boilies that we've been making. So I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 sort of packages, so there'll be some boilies and some hook baits, and then some other prizes as just hook baits, so you get a selection of pop-ups and wafters. Although I was going to do a hardened hook bait. There's a thing. Anyway, I've been Martin. Tight lines, things aren't too good at the minute. Stay safe, stay inside. It's the best way to help the NHS. My wife works for the NHS, and she comes in absolutely knackered, and when she's finished and has a lie in, she sleeps forever. So I know what they're going through at the moment. So subscribe to the page, give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Don't just like the post on the Boilie page, because it doesn't show up on the YouTube page, so a like on there would be good. I've been Martin at Bespoke Baits. Check us out, bespokebaits.co.uk. Tight lines.